Yes, it's Baruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and we're thanking very much for listening today. So what we're dealing with here once again is Sharakavanas with the Rav, and then also we're looking at some of the depictions that are made by the Rashash. Now, what we want you to understand, that I know that the people who actually listen to this shir are Mekubalim, because you would not be listening to the shir if you weren't. It's very difficult to understand why these things, exactly how they apply, and that's really what we're looking for. But here we have in front of us the bracha, the part of the bracha of Sha'asa Nisim that start with the concept of Sha'asa. Now, what we've learned so far, and I'm going to bring us down to the bottom, and we're going to look at it like this. And he's going to go over this in the words, and we're going to see it in the words. But first, I want to show you, because this is my thought. My thought is that following the Torah that I've learned for many, many years of Rebbe Nachman the Breslov, and looking at the outside of something, I think it's important to familiarize yourself with what is the subject. It's maybe not the other, but the topic of what we're talking about is the use of letters and the combination of letters as a kavanah to reach as close as possible to Hashem. Now, the last time we were working on the word sha'asa, so let's see, that's up at the top. So the Rav divided this up at that time between two sections. This one, Sha'ah, and Sha'ah, like that, Shah. So he said, let's look at it in terms of gematrias. This is a gematria of 370. Now, from the ancient times, we understand that the panemius of reality is in the form, to a certain extent, of a man. It's not a physical man, but a man of lights that is shining towards us. And this is Benimi to us. And the face of the man that we're talking about is the face of Eric Anpen. And Eric Anpen has a beard. The beard covers his face and goes all the way down to, I think, to his tibor. I'm not sure, I don't remember 100%, but it's either to his chest or it's the tibor. I think it's a tibor. So anyway, at any case, this beard has openings where what we call the cheeks, just like your beard. But those cheeks are full of white light, the light of kindness. And these lights shine and shine and shine. And so each one of them is called a kale. So, because if you know the Hashem, kale, racham, v'chanim, that kale always means chesed. So over here, these two cheeks shine chesed out. They're not covered by a beard. There's nothing to stop the light from just flowing out. And so they're called the two kales. But as they shine out to us, then they start changing their form. It's still kale, but now it's in the form of this milui. So this is the word, the first aleph. This is how you spell aleph, right? And this is how you spell lamed. So if you add up the gematria of this, it's going to come to 185. And then there's two kales because there's two sides to the face. So this will become I'm doing it backwards, 185, like that. It's going to be 185. So 185 gets to the gematria of 370. 370 is this part. And he says like this, we're going to take the name Elokim. The lashon of Elokim is a lashon of din. So we're taking these 370, and the concept is that these two kales represents extreme kindness. And we're pouring them into Elokim, which in every place in Kabbalah is understood as the word, as the meat of din. Elokim, if you spell it out with the milui of Yudin, which he's not showing us here right now, it comes to gematria of 300. And the Zohar, it's not the Zohar, but the Kabbalah adds into it, the Rav adds into it, the 5 letters of the Elokim itself. It comes to the gematria of 305, and this is 305. And this is the concept, right, of taking the 370, which is the light of the face of Eric Anpin, of the cheeks of Eric Anpin, shining into this din to sweeten it. That's a basic idea of what's going on in Chanukah. We're taking, in other places we've seen, we're taking the light of Ima, and we're shining it downwards into the Nook, which is a place of Elokim, and we're going to sweeten it up in a really, really strong way. And that's what happens here on Chanukah. So today is the 7th day of Chanukah. Now let me see if I can find the place. We'll read some new ideas. I think it's right here. So we're on page Lamates over here. And the Rav writes, let's go to the Tivuk Kavanos, and it says, Od Yirtza. So enough if you like this idea. K'inyan Beis Shemos Elu Shel Kale. Now, we've already agreed that the kales represent the cheeks of Eric Anpin, who are shining from inside of us outwards towards us. Atem Bevarach Rav Od Mahalach is another way to look at this concept of the sweetening. Where do we see the origin of these two names which are called kale? Because up until now we're concentrating on the concept of extending these two names kale from representing to the two cheeks of Eric Anpin. El Shemos kale. B'miloi min train tefuchin de Eric Anpin. The cheeks are called the tefuchin, the apples of Eric Anpin. So now it wants to say that these names are, this kale is coming from Ima. How do we know that? Ima, another way of looking at Ima, and we haven't discussed it, and I don't understand it 100% which is Ekia and which is Sag, but obviously one is male, one is female, so I don't really understand, but he says over here that the Haim sowed the name Havaya de Sag. Sag refers to Ima. So it usually refers, and I've seen it many places, it refers to the Zayin Tachtoinus of Ima. In other words, the Zat will be called the Zat of Ima, the Heskavur Tiferes, and that's a Chod Yesoda, the goof of Ima. Shining down should be Arna B'milas Chanukah Shuhu Ku V'Sag. So he explains here that the Gematria of Ku, and he's really spelling Chanukah to a certain extent like Chanukah, so our Chanukah, he said B'milas Chanukah, so if we take the word B'Chanukah, which I think we were supposed to have seen last time, which is the Gematria, the Pashut of Yud Kei Vav Kei, 26. That's his Gematria, added up. The Sag, which is the Milui of Alofen, Yud Vav Dalad Kei Yud, Vav Aleph Vav Kei Yud, comes a Gematria of 63. So he says like the Shnei Shemos Kale and his Karnim. They're all these two names, which he said, Haim Sod Shem Havaya the Sag. It's a secret of the Havaya the Sag, which is Gematria 63. And near the B'Tevis Chanukah, Sheba'osios Ku, together with the letters Ku, they come to the Gematria of 89, which is the Gematria of Chanukah. Near Meshem Chavaya Peshuta, so here you have a simple Chavaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, 26. Ba'osios Chana, and these other letters, which gets to the Gematria of 63. Chana is 58, sorry. And 5 makes 63. Mechanukah, Nirmaz, Shem Chavaya the Sag, Kanizka the El. So in Chanukah, which is Gematria of Sag, he says that you have these two names. You put the two of them together, you have the concept of Chanukah. So in some way, this is the idea of, we know that Yud Kei Vav Kei refers to Zer Anpin. Zer Anpin is a manifestation of that name. It's where you see that name. And you say, into that name, you were bringing also this concept of Sag, which is Gematria 63, which represents the bottom part of Ima, coming to Zer Anpin. So that's another Mahalach, another way of looking at this. Let's look a little bit more, see if we can get a little bit more out of this. Over time, we have a Shahu, Havaya B'Pasha B'Milui. This is Havaya in a simple way and in a Milui. Hainu, you could take the Pashat of Yud Kei Vav Kei as Gematria 26. Hu Havaya B'Pashut, this is the simple Pashut. They add on to it the name Sag. Hu Havaya B'Milui, that's the Havaya with the Milui. Yud Vav Dala, Kei Vav, Kei Yud rather, Vav Aleph Vav, Kei Yud B'Pashut, Hu Kale. So let's see what he says. V'hinei ad Mevar Eich Nirmaz Shem Kale B'Havaya Pashut Uvamale, where you see the Chavai in a simple sense, and you also see it in a Mali. So in other words, 63 and 26 is going to make, once again, 89, which is the Gematria of Chanukah. Maski Levaya Remez Shem Kale B'Pasha. Now we're going to start trying to make this Remez here, and we'll read a little bit more as we can. Cheshbona Hu Ku. Vadalid Osiosav, this is another way of looking at it. You have the 26 is the Gematria of the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. There are 4 letters in the name Yud Kei Vav Kei added on to it. And so now you have 26 and 4 makes 30. V'hakolel, then you take its root, that is Panemius, and it becomes the Gematria of 31, which is a Gematria of Kale. So you see right there in the name itself, you have it. Kishem Kavaya B'Pashut Olaku. This is one the Tiv is explaining this out. He says it comes to the Gematria of 26. Vim Arba Osioseho, so when you take the 4 letters, Ola Lamed, it comes to Gematria of 30. V'im hakolol ola b'mizbar shem kale, and with the kolel, that's the root of it, it comes out, the shorish, it comes out to the number 31. So you have 26 plus 4 letters plus the kolel makes the number kale. Once again, hare yesh lonu kale, arishon, that's the first time that we see kale. And let's see if we could do one more. V'gam b'miluy the sag, let's look at sag. Now, if you look at sag, and you look not at the yud ke vav ke, but look at the other letters. The other letters, he's a babo osios yud yud aleph yud. I guess other letters not exactly right, but this comes also, there are 3 vowels in it. Yud, yud, aleph, and yud. Now he's going to show it to us. Shu Gematria kale, that comes out also. 3 yuds is 30, and aleph is 1, that's 31. Gam b'shem sag, nirma shem kale, ba'osios, hamimiloi kazan. So you take it like this. Yud vav dal, this is what sag looks like. Yud vav dal ke yud, vav aleph vav ke yud. Behind, that is to say, shalokim osios hamulus mishem zen. Now, what does he mean by mulos? The special letters. Ayin shefa. So the shefa explained to you, take these 4 letters. Shuhu osios yud yud, aleph and yud. Go back and let's see it again. Let's count it up so we don't get too confused. Here's 1 yud. Here's a 2nd yud. Here's a 3rd yud, and there's the aleph. So you take this yud, this aleph, and this yud. It also comes to the gematria of kale. So within the name itself, it is there. V'zera oile v'gematria k'shem kale, and it comes to the gematria of kale. Hari l'kol shnei shemos kale. So if you say, well, what are we doing with this? Well, the first thing what we're doing with this is just becoming aware of the fact that this is a technique used by the Kabbalists, especially by the Ri HaKodesh. We're reading the Ri, and we're looking at the Rashash as he brings it into a depiction so that we can actually see how it works. So this is the Torah here for today in the Rav with the Rashash. We're working a little bit that way. This is Baruch Fleischman with the Tikkun Elevator Kolel.